Okay, so let's just review the last items that we use to create 3D models before we go into rendering. So the first one is the revolve command. If you are doing it, make sure you try to do it accurately. You may request the drawing files from the vendor. Now, here's one where I got the dimensions, which is nice. It's a little taller based on the 950 millimeter height. So I use that. And for the revolve command, you only need to do half the profile. So I created lines and polylines to do it. And the next thing that you need to do is to simply p-edit, polyline edit, and connect the lines. Okay, I'm going to trim this as well, half of it. So let's make a line from midpoint and trim the half. So I only need the half. This will be my axis of revolution. So for a revolve command to work, you just need a continuous profile and then an axis of revolution. So let me p-edit this one here. So it was created as a line. So it's asking me if I want to convert it into a polyline. So I'll say yes. And then join the rest of the lines. Okay. So that's one line, two, three, okay, four, five, okay, six, seven, 8, 9, and then the arc. Okay. So enter. Now, this is a continuous polyline now. If you select that polyline, it will be selected as one element. Okay. Now we're ready to do the revolve command. So I click revolve and it's asking me to select the object to revolve. So that will be the profile. Enter. And then it's asking me for the axis. So I'm going to specify this endpoint and that endpoint as the axis of revolution. And then it's going to ask you how many angle should be included in your revolve. Okay, so you can create a half or maybe a quarter. Normally we do a 360 degrees revolution. Okay, now for this one, we need to bring it up, make it stand up. So I'm going to use the conceptual view style and then use my rotate gizmo, select the object, and then click the red axis, which is the X axis, and rotate it this way. Okay. Now from here, I could save this as a block that I could use for other purposes, or I can simply copy that, Control C, go to my project and type Control V. So this one is a little bigger, I think. Enter. And sometimes it just doesn't want to work, right? I think there's something wrong with this file as we encountered last meeting, but that's how you would include it. Okay, so it's not showing here. I have to investigate why, but otherwise, that's how you can apply for a revolve. Okay. Now, the next one is the sweep command. Again, just to review, you can use that for your parapet cap. Okay. So how did we do that parapet cap? First thing you want to do is you want to create a profile to the elevation, on the elevation that you're going to create that profile. So let's say left elevation, something like that. Okay. And then I'll go down to the wireframe and draw my profile. Again, when you are creating a profile, you want to make sure you are building one that is available in the market. So maybe you would look for parapet caps, para caps, and you can see what is available. Otherwise, you can design your own. Just make sure that somebody can manufacture it. Okay, so I'll just design my own by number one, making sure my user coordinate system is aligned to this view. So I simply type UCS V for view, so aligned to the view. Okay, so my UCS is now aligned to this view. And then use the polyline command. So that's my top of the building. So I'm just going to cover that. So maybe somewhere here and create my parapet design, whatever. Okay. And C to close. Okay. So that's the profile. Again, you won't be able to buy that anywhere. So that will be customized. So that's the first thing that you need to draw. The next one is for a sweep, is the path. You need to show AutoCAD where, like follow me in SketchUp, where the profile will be swept. Okay, so I'm going to use the polyline command as well, and I'm going to just go around. But for this one, I might do conceptual. It's a lot easier to see it. Okay, polyline. Okay, from here going around. Okay, so use the polyline command. Make sure you are clicking the proper endpoints. Zoom in if you need to. Okay, and click close. C to end that sequence. So I now have let me go back to the wireframe. I now have a closed polyline that will serve as my path and another closed polyline that will serve as my profile. Then I will click on the sweep command, and it asks me, always converse with AutoCAD, right? Select object to sweep. Well, the object to sweep is the profile. So click that. Okay, and then select object to sweep if you have more objects, but we don't have any other objects. So hit enter to end the selection process. And then it's asking us to select the path. So that's our path, and that's our sweep. Okay, this command is also available in Revit. So uh, hopefully you are able to use that in Revit as well. Okay. And the last command here is the Loft command. For the Loft command, you just need several profile, one on top of the other, like when you're creating contours, you're creating a mountainscape, okay? You'll use this particular tool. Now, here, we actually use a Loft command. You could have used a Revolve command here, but not at the base. The base should definitely use the Loft command. And then the actually the entire thing can use the Loft command. So for the Loft command, you just go to the top view. Okay, so we'll say UCS world and then plan world. So you're in the top view, and then you can create close polylines. So let's say I have one here, close, and then I have another, maybe it's a contour of a mountain, okay? And then maybe I have another here. The number of points doesn't have to be the same. I could even have a circle here at the top, okay? Now, they're all in the same plane. That's what we call coplanar. All you need to do is move the other profile to a different Z value. So let's say 50 feet. Okay. And then let me move the others to another, let's say 25 feet. And let me move that circle, move to, let's say 30. Okay. 30, it should be feet. Okay. So let's do that again. Move this from here by 30 feet. Okay. So that's the requirement. You have profiles, close profiles in different Z elevations. And then from there, you can click on the Loft command, select the profiles, and it will create the loft for you. Okay. Now, there are options. If you go to settings, once you hit enter, you can say smooth, which is the default option, or you can say ruled. Okay. Smooth or ruled option. Okay. So that's the loft command. When you're creating mountains contours, that's actually a good command to use. Okay. Or something simple like a lamp post. Okay. So that's for the uh, last 3D modeling uh, techniques that I want you to take note of that you may use for your modeling. Now, likewise, I did say that we can, if we want to, apply different materials to a surface, but you need to cut the surface into several phases. And to do that, there is the slice command. Okay. So first, you need to create a rectangle. So let's say I'm going to make a rectangle. Let's go to 2D wireframe. Create a rectangle. Let's say from here to there. So that rectangle is aligned to the base at the ground level of this building right here. And what I want to do is raise it up by, let's say, certain height. So move this from here to about, let's say, 3 feet. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to do or accomplish is to cut or slice this building here at the 3 feet height so that I can apply a stone material later here and maybe a brick material at the top. Now, I cannot apply two materials if they are not yet separated. So to separate that, all I need to do is say slice. SL is the shortcut key. Okay, select the object to slice, which is the building itself. Enter. And then here you have the option planar object. So click planar object, select that planar object, enter, and it gets sliced. So now we can apply a different material at the bottom or base and at the top. You can also rotate your slicing planar object. So let's say I'm going to rotate it this much. Okay. And I'm going to move, let's say, this from endpoint to endpoint and then do a slice. So I can slice this at an angle, planar object, select planar object, select this, enter, and this gets sliced. Now, if you want a design, where you're applying a different material at an angle, and then maybe you can further slice again here, okay? Then that's a technique that you can use. Okay? So it doesn't have to be vertical or horizontal. It could be vertical, it could be slanted. Okay? Any question regarding those techniques on how to. Okay, let's move to adding materials. So how do we add materials here? the first thing you want to do is to open the material browser. Okay, to open the material browser, you simply type MA. Okay, so kindly open your 3D model, any 3D model that you would like to work on. It could be a simple box. Just create a simple box right now just to practice alongside my demonstration. Okay? So create a 3D box, put there a pyramid, a wedge, or open that 3D house that was made available, or use the 3D model that you 3D printed. Okay? So I only have two requirements for this competency. One is that you're able to apply different materials to a 3D model. Two, to be able to do a nice 3D exterior render with background. And three, a nice interior render. Okay? So those are the requirements. Now, but you always want to think portfolio. Since you're working on this for 3 weeks, why not build something new? I highly recommend that. It builds portfolio and create something nice. Doesn't have to be complicated. It could be simple. Okay? But for today, we just need to practice. Okay? So, this is the material library, material browser. Now, when you start and you open the material browser, you will not have, or maybe you just have one default material. All these materials need to be loaded. You can preload a build materials if you have a template where all these are preloaded. See, we don't want to preload all these materials in the library, and there are, I think, thousands of them, because it will make your file too big. So they are not preloaded. Only the ones that you need, you can select. And to select a material, you simply click here at the top and search for a material. What material are you interested in, for example? Asila? Brick. Okay, so you simply type brick and the brick materials will be here. Okay, now you can change the viewing option, thumbnail size here. I have it at 256 since I'm doing a demonstration, so you can see, but you can also make it smaller. Okay, so depends on how you like to see the materials. So that's brick. Any other material? What? Yeah, wood. Okay, you can say wood, for example, there. So be familiar with the material library. That's what I'm saying. Number one, so that you know, oh, there's this nice material that I can use. Okay. Of course, there is also concrete. Okay. We do have insulation. Okay. And we have asphalt. That's how you spell it, asphalt. Okay. So be familiar with the library. Okay. Now, once you have the materials that you need, then you can edit it before you upload it. So you need to upload it by clicking this up arrow right here. Or you can edit it before uploading it. Okay. So you can open it and edit it. So I can click this here. And a material is actually composed of an image, okay? And that image also has some qualities. So finish, bump, relief, pattern, tint. in this case, and you can make changes to it. Now, notice that the relief pattern, or sometimes it's called the bump map. Bump meaning to say it makes your image, when rendered, look three-dimensional. The relief pattern is in grayscale. It's because dark colors in that gray tone tend to push back in the render, and then light color and white tend to be moved forward. So notice that this here, the image, the texture for the ceramic is the same size as the relief pattern. They will be superimposed to each other, and then the renderer will try to make the dark object, the grid in this scenario, move backward. And the light object, the render will try to move it forward so that it will render and will, in an illusion, look like three-dimensional. Any question regarding relief pattern? So you can create your own material by taking a photo of, let's say, an existing material applied to a wall. Let's say you're doing a renovation project. I have a video on how to prepare one. Okay, I'll share that video in future lectures. But you can also, if you're interested, look for texture maps. Now, the texture maps that you would like to look for should be seamless. Seamless texture. Okay? Why seamless? It should be tileable, or it should repeat. The image can be repeated side by side, and you will not see a seam or a line in between the tiles. It's as if they are continuous. Okay? So, let's look at one. So let's say this one here, right? Let's say you like to use this material. You don't like to use the same material. You want to stand out from the rest of your classmates and say, I'm going to create my own material. So you can do that. Let's say here, although this one is, I think, will have some watermark. But otherwise, yeah, you want to look for one that will not have a watermark. Like say for this example, let me try this one here. So I can download that, and then we're going to see, copy to clipboard. Okay, let me just copy to clipboard, or what do I do? Yeah, I copied it to my clipboard, and I'm just going to paste it somewhere so I can use that later. So try to download a material texture seamless map, and we're going to create a material, our own material later. Was I able to copy it? Nope. Yeah, I think. Okay, I'll do that later. So just find one. It didn't copy it to the clipboard. So let's try this one here. Download. Okay, there you go. I have one. Seamless, meaning to say when this edge here gets tiled, repeated here at the other edge, it will appear as if it's continuous. That's what seamless is. Okay, so I'm going to close this. I got my own my material, which I'm going to use later. Okay, going back. If you want to change or you want to edit the image for some reason, you click on the image and the properties of that image will appear. So this one is a 6-inch by 6-inch tile. 6 meaning say 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 6 divided by 4. Each tile is 6 divided by 4 inches. Okay? If you want that to be bigger or smaller or of a certain size, you can change the scale right here. Instead of 6, you can make it 1 foot. You can make it 2 inches if you want to. Okay? Smaller or bigger. Now, when you are changing the scale, if you change 1, so let's say I place here 1 foot. Okay, notice it also changed the height. If you change the width, it changes the height. Okay, now what if you want 1 by 2 instead of 1 and 1, right? You need to click this button right here to unlink the two, the width and the height. Okay, so now I can say this will be 1 foot and this could be 2 feet. Okay, you can only do that after unlinking the scale. Was that? Why? I am. Okay, we're good. Next. Uh, so you can also change the offset. Let's say you want to move your tile a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, okay? Offset. So you can do offset X, Y. X is horizontal, Y is vertical. Okay? Now, what if you want to apply this material? So let's say I want to apply this material. All I need to do is select the material, select the object you want to apply the material to, okay? And then click and drag this into the object. Now, nothing will happen until, and you can only see your image if you are in a realistic visual style. Okay? So that's how you apply materials if you are in a realistic style. Another way of applying material is by selecting the object, selecting your material, and it gets applied. Okay? So you can select an object, select the material, and it gets applied. Okay? That's a glass material, by the way. That's why we're seeing the interior. Now, there's one problem. When you apply a material that way, using any of the method, I'm going to delete the roof so we can see the problem. It also apply the same material on all sides of the object. But normally, we don't want to have brick in the exterior and brick in the interior. We might want gypsum or something else. A paint color, maybe, right? So, how do you change the material applied to the interior of the building? Well, you simply select a material. Let's say, I'm just going to say green paint, let's say. I'm going to upload this. There it is. I'm going to hold down the control key. Press the control key, click on the material, bring it to that surface, and it will get applied only on the surface where you apply the material. Yeah, exactly. But normally, I would apply the material on all if it is applied to all, and then just take care of the interior. You don't want to keep applying it one at a time when you're applying the same material anyway. So do the exterior or the interior first, and then do the exterior or the interior next. So that's how you apply materials to a specific surface. Okay? So what I want you to do is apply materials to the surfaces. Okay? And then we'll move on to the next topic. Okay? So if you want to edit the material, well, not this green paint, there's nothing much there. Uh, but a material like this, if it's already up in your document, you can click the edit button. Okay. Now, but before editing a material, I highly recommend that you right click and remember in Revit, duplicate it first because you're making changes to the original and then you're going to lose the original, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to duplicate it first and then name it, add a prefix. So claim it. So RN, that's my material. So I can easily find all my material. It starts with RN. Okay. And then, and only then, should you edit the material. Okay. So if you want to change the scale, you click on the image itself. Click on the image itself, and then you can change the scale. If you want a varying scale proportion, then you need to unlock this or lock it. Okay? Now, when we are doing a 3D model, adding materials, we want to think like a movie maker. How many here likes to watch movie in the making? Nobody. Yeah, I really enjoy those movie in the making documentaries. Uh Now think like a movie maker. So movie sets. How many here have been to Hollywood or uh you know Warner Brothers sets, right? How many have been in one of those? What do you notice? When they're making a movie, they're not creating the entire set. They're only building things that will show in front of the camera. Okay? That's an important concept to think about when you are modeling and preparing for rendering. So, part 4, the next 3 weeks is about rendering. What you're going to be doing is you're going to only prepare items that will be seen within the or in front of the camera. That's the only thing that you will be preparing. You're preparing a scene. Okay? Maybe it's a 2-second shot. That's it. Right? You're preparing for the set. Now, like I said, what if you want to apply a different material like this one here? Okay. So what you want to do is you want to select a material that is maybe similar, if not, close to that material that you would like to create. So I'm going to use this because it's styling. So I'll use this square. I'm going to upload it. Okay. And then I'm going to right click and duplicate it. I'm going to name this, add my initial in front, RN, and then maybe name it according to what I am trying to create, what type of material I'm trying to create. So let's see. click that. Again, rename. Okay, RN. Let's just say modern. I'm just going to name it RN modern. Okay. Now, from here, you want to edit this material. Now, instead of clicking the image, you want to click this, the name of the material. So not the image, but the name of the material. Okay. So I did save this material and I have it in my download folder right there. Okay. So I'm going to copy this, Control C. I'm going to copy this. What's this material? Oh, I did save this. We can try that later as well. So uh, I have this saved. I'm going to copy it, Control C. And when I get to the folder by clicking the name, so it opens up the folder. I already have my own folder here, but initially you will be brought to the texture folder. Is that correct? Okay. Create a new folder that will be your own folder and then paste the material there. You will be asked to continue. In my case, I'll just say continue. And I'm going to be asked to allow AutoCAD to paste that image and it gets pasted. Okay. And then I'm going to open that and it gets applied to my new material. Now, remember what I said about relief pattern. It should be the same size and proportion as your main material. So I need to also click here and select that same material. Click open. They should be the same. Otherwise, you'll see a bump map or a relief on your pattern. So they should always be the same. This should be in gray tone, which it is already. And this should be the main image. Now, if you don't have a gray tone image, what you can do is open this in Photoshop and convert that to a gray tone. Okay? So that's the only thing that you need to do. If you don't know how to do that, you can always go to YouTube and say, how do I make a gray tone? Open to in Photoshop, you simply edit and say grayscale, if I'm not mistaken. Okay? Or for now, you can simply add the two images here and there, even if it is not grayscale yet. That's okay. It will still work as a relief pattern. Okay? Now that you have this and it is already applied here, okay, you can close this and then I'll use a conceptual view and apply that material. So I click and drag it here, go to a realistic visual style, and there's my material. Okay. I can change the scale. So edit this. I can change the scale by clicking on the image itself. Change the scale from 6 inches to maybe make it 3 feet. Enter 3 feet by 3 feet. But don't forget, if you do that to the main image material, you also need to do it for your relief pattern. Okay? So your relief pattern should also be 3 feet by 3 feet. Okay? See that? It looks like it is three-dimensional because of the relief pattern. Okay? Close that, and your image becomes bigger, more visible. Okay? The texture becomes bigger. So that's how you create a material. So kindly create a material and apply it to any of the surfaces. Okay? So again, here, uh, it when I Googled, it said this is a seamless material, but not really. Notice you can see the line demarcation between tiles. I think it is seamless downward, right? See, you don't see the horizontal lines. So it's seamless downward, but not side by side. Okay, so let's look for a different material. I selected one earlier, this one. So I'm going to, again, just to review the technique, you need to copy this, Control C from your folder, number one. Number two, I'm going to select the same ceramic material, edit that, or sorry, rename it or duplicate it first, sorry, duplicate. Okay, I'm going to name this RN concrete. Okay, and now I should be able to edit it. So this is my RN concrete. Edit that. Okay, not this one, not the modern. Should be the, is it this one here? Yeah, edit. Yeah, RN concrete. I'm going to click on the name, not the image itself, the name. Okay, I'm going to type Control V here, allow to paste that object or image. Okay, select that. While that's selected, click open, and it gets applied here. Okay, I have to do that for the relief pattern as well. Okay, so click on the name, not the image. Select that material. If you're not sure what it is, you can say thumbnail, and it will show you the material, right? View, thumbnail, select that, open, and I'm happy with that for now. That will be the relief, finish bump. Let's see, what's finish bump? Nothing there. Okay, close this, and while this is selected, right click on the material. You can also say assign to selection. So you can say right click, assign to selection, and it gets assigned. Now this one I think is more seamless. Okay, so even if I zoom in, you're not able to distinguish the tiling effect. Okay, so that's what seamless mean. Okay, so kindly practice that. Okay, so make sure all your materials are in the folder that you have created. So I created my own folder to organize, and then I can create more folders if I need to differentiate maybe stone material from wood material, okay, ceramics and stucco. So make your own material library. Okay. Once you have done that, then you can again click on the name, and then you paste here the texture, the file. So it gets copied here. You copy first from your folder, you paste it here, and then you can select that material. Make sure you also change the relief pattern. Like I said, it's good if this is gray and white or gray scale. So you can convert this into a gray scale. but it still works even if it is not grayscale because there's a dark and light tone here, right? There's still light and dark tones. And if you change the scale in one, make sure you also change and synchronize. Change the scale in the other. So if this is 3 feet, make sure this is 3 feet. If this is offset by a foot, make sure this is also offset by a foot. They should be synchronized, aligned, scaled together. Okay, after adding materials, the next thing you want to do is create a camera view. Okay, create a camera view. So let's say we have applied materials. Now we're going to create camera views. Normally, I will go to a conceptual view and go to the plan view. Okay, so plan world coordinate system. Okay, let's delete this. Okay, are you ready to create a camera view? Yeah, go to a plan view. So plan world coordinate system, world. Okay. You may also say UCS, W for world. Now from here, you want to know where you want to take a photo for you to render. Now, there are several school of thoughts regarding this. One is if you are, uh, let's say, Roman, okay? Remember history of architecture, Roman temple. Romans, they want to view their building from the front, right? Front, everything axial from the front. Now, if you are Greek, you want to view, let's say, the Parthenon. When you enter the Acropolis, you'll view it from the two sides, two-point perspective. The Roman, 1-point perspective. Okay? Now, so we're going to be Greeks this time. Okay? I'm going to put the camera here so that I'm viewing the building at an angle. The command to create a camera is CA. And then you select camera. Okay? CA, shortcut key, and then select camera. So you have a camera right here. If you are not seeing the camera, you might need to say camera display. Make sure it is set to 1. 1 meaning on. Binary code, 1 on, 0 off. Okay? So turn the camera display on. Okay? So if it's on, the next thing that you want to do is, again, type CA, select camera. Now, don't just click anywhere, type point XY. You're telling AutoCAD that the point you're going to click is the X and the Y of the camera location, but not the height, not the Z angle. Okay? So let's say I'm going to hit enter and I want my camera somewhere here. I'm going to click somewhere here and AutoCAD will ask me what's the Z value. I am 6 foot 6 inches high. So I'm going to place here 6 feet 6. Okay? That's how tall I am. Of course, you don't believe me because I am not. Okay? So enter. Now that camera is placed in the XY location at height 6 feet 6 inches. The next thing that you want to do to create a camera is to show where you're looking at, the direction you're looking at. For the target or the direction, you say point XY as well. So you're going to specify the X and Y location, but not the Z yet. Enter. And then you always want to go beyond the building. Okay? Beyond the building. So let's say somewhere here. And AutoCAD will ask you for the Z. Type there 6 feet 6 inches as well, or the height that you type for the camera. The height of the camera should be the same as the height of the target. And I'll tell you why later. Okay? Make the height of the camera the height of the target. Enter. Okay? And then it will ask you if you want to name it. You can name it now or simply exit. And there's your camera right there. Click the camera and the view will appear. Click the camera, okay? And the camera preview will appear. Right click on the camera. Sometimes when you right click, we can select the properties. But if not, we can just open the properties later. Okay, so that's the camera view. I can change the visual style to shaded or let's say gray or hidden. Okay, what do you notice about the image, the camera view, regarding the vertical lines? What do you notice?
They're straight.
They're straight. Yes. And the reason why they're straight is because the height of the camera is the same as the height of the target. If you want your camera or your building to appear straight, which is nice, to achieve that, you only need to set your camera height the same as your target height. Okay? If you make your camera or your target height different, then you will see a perspective angle for shortening on your vertical lines. Okay? So, one way of doing this is you can also go to a view V, enter, and select the camera that you have just created. You can rename that camera. Okay, you can click, double click, I think, or how do I rename this? Update, edit boundaries, delete. No, I think we don't rename it here. But you can apply this and it will show that view in your viewport. Okay, I think that was was it camera 3 or camera 2? Now I don't know which camera that was. Well, it was 3, right? No, it's camera 1 in this case because I deleted camera 1. Okay? Was that? When you click the camera. So when you go to, let's say, top view, set current, apply. When you click the camera like this, then what happens? It's wireframe. Are you in 2D wireframe? What's your visual style? Conceptual. So when you click this, it should show this and you can change the visual style. Okay?
How do I tell the camera?
What's that? Got it?
I accidentally pointed it up at the sky. How do I tilt it back down?
Okay. So let's see. Let's go to 2D wireframe. Select, right click. Bye bye. So go to 2D wireframe. Select the camera, right click, and look for. Uh, no, I'm looking for properties. I think we can also select properties here. Select that. And then, uh, no, maybe let's go to drafting and annotation. Click that, right click, and properties. Yeah.
So select it.
Yeah, go to drafting and annotation. It's not showing in 3D basic or modeling. And then right click and select properties. You can change the height, the Z value of the camera or the target here. So this one is very powerful. You are opening the properties palette. Okay. So again, go to drafting and annotation. Select the camera, right click, select properties. Okay. And then you can change the height. Now, you can also move the camera, let's say closer if you want to. So click that grip, and then you can move this to where you want it to be located. Okay. So unselect, select again, and you can, if you want to, be interactive by selecting the camera and then moving it and seeing how it looks like in your view. So you can adjust and click. Okay. When you are creating a nice view, you're preparing for a render. So there's the Greek, the Roman viewing points. Now, the other one is what the photographers would call the rule of thirds. Rule of thirds. How many here do photography? Nice. Okay. The rule of thirds dictates that you place the most interesting part of the building at the third of the frame. That's the rule of thirds. Instead of, symmetrical balance right at the center, you place the most interesting part of the building at the third of the frame. So that's a rule that might be applicable when you are doing a 3D render. So you want to prepare a view that is really going to look nice. Now, if you cut this into three, right? Uh, Initially, you already can see that it doesn't look that great. So you might want to tweak it by maybe increasing the height. Let's say if I increase this by 12 feet, okay? Notice that the vertical lines are not anymore straight. So you can also increase, if you want those lines straight, the target to 12 feet. Okay, now they're straight. Okay, is that better? Maybe. Okay, so make changes. You can also change the lens length from 50 to, let's say, 30. Okay, or maybe zoom in a little bit more from 30 to 60. Okay, so you can adjust these values and see the effect on your render frame. Now, sometimes you can create dramatic views by going close to, let's say, an object let's say if I want to emphasize this letter S right here, okay, and maybe changing the target height to 50 feet, and maybe changing the lens to 30, okay, maybe target height to 70 feet, okay, and lens to 25, right? Something like that. So create interesting view by using the worm's eye view, which is what this is. Your camera is lower than your target, or bird's eye view. Your camera is looking down. Sometimes we call it now a drone's view, right? So you can check different angles. That's the first thing you want to do for this project. Create a fantastic view following either rule of thirds, worm's eye view, bird's eye view, human eye level view, okay? Rule of thirds. That's the first thing you want to do. Create a nice view before you start rendering, okay? Now, from this view, notice that I do not need anything at the back, right? If I'm going to render this view, all I need is this S and this facade. I can start deleting, so I'll save the file first. I'm going to say view 1, take 1, S. And then start deleting the model at the back. Why would I do that? Anybody can tell me why? Yeah? It can render faster. See, the computer, AutoCAD, the software, will consider every model in the file. So even if it's not being seen, it's still considering it. But it's not affecting your render. So save the file, delete the ones at the back, and then start focusing on that area. Okay? Any question? None. Okay, we'll stop there. We'll stop there. We'll add lights, create more camera angles, review your photography technique, prowess, okay? Look for different images that has great angles, architectural, and then try to produce two views, one interior, one exterior. The only difference with the interior and the exterior view is that for the interior, your camera will be inside your building. Okay? So that's the only difference. Your camera will be inside your building. So let's say, I think I have one here. I think this is in at the back. Yeah. So that's an interior view. Your camera is inside the building. Okay. I'll end there. If you have question, do ask. I'll go around. Otherwise, we're done for today.
So that, in terms of the